Hi, I'm Peter Reynolds, and welcome to Pros and Conversations, the podcast that explores what it takes to be successful, whether you're from the world of science, business, or the arts. Today, we're going to be looking at part 2 of how to bring structure to a creative business. If you work in the creative field, so much of what we do is subjective and really affected by tastes, feelings, and opinions. But the tax man doesn't care about your feelings. And if you don't have some structure in your business, you're not going to have your business for very long. And joining us today is somebody who objectively is a fantastic marketing guru, and that's Damon Adachi from Sevenfold Marketing. Damon, how you doing?
Good. I hope we're not talking about taste because I have no taste, so that would be a problem. But no, I'm excited to get back into this. The first version of this topic was really engaging, and I want to get down into more of the details. And I'm all set to be the Lando to your Han today. Let's get it done.
That's terrific, Damon. Yeah, and that being said, let's introduce our guest who joined us in part 1, and that is Joanne Kupiak, who is a designer and the owner of Design Excellence. Joanne, welcome to Pros and Conversations again.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Damon. Thanks for having me.
So Joanne, this is, it's been fascinating how this episode has really struck a chord with viewers and listeners, because I think there's a lot of people out there who have creative businesses, but maybe don't have the structure that they need.
I agree. I think it's hard for creative businesses to create structure. We are of the left brain, right brain, whatever it is. It's not the brain that we normally have, and it's hard for creative people to create that structure. So we're here today to help people create that structure in their business.
So last episode, you just touched on the fact that you have essentially a 15-point process, or a 15-step process, I should say, that you repeat over and over. And perhaps we could actually go over those 15 steps. But
Absolutely.
Maybe start by telling me why you decided to create a 15-step process.
It's important to create repeatable processes. In the end, it creates consistency. You create a solid reputation for yourself as a small business. It creates professionalism. It allows you to look professional in front of your peers, but also in front of your clients. And the intention is to make your clients pleased, happy in the end, and certainly for them to refer additional business. So it's a full circle of creating new business is the intention of a process.
So maybe we can start with step 1 of this process.
Sure. Why don't I go through them step by step? So really the first step is to have a consultation, a phone call discussion with the client, and find out what it is that they want to have accomplished. So creating a scope of work, making sure that you are on the same page as your client. So that's step 1. Step 2, I would say, is creating an agreement, like signing a letter of agreement. So this is going to be between you and your client. And you want your lawyer to sign off on that, make sure that you're not getting yourself into trouble. And we ask for a retainer, which, that amount of money gets credited to the client's final invoice. And this gives you as a business owner confidence that your client actually wants to move forward with you and is serious about working with you. It is their commitment to you. So that's step 2. I'll go into step 3 and 4 as well. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I wanted to talk to you about lawyers. And this is something that I have. I don't know about you, Damon, but I have tended to avoid the sort of the contract with all the legalese, because I found that it kind of scares off some clients. And although I do see the value of having, this is our process, this is as much to protect you as it is to protect me. But it sometimes can seem overwhelming for clients when they get a document like that. What are your thoughts on that, Damon?
Yeah, and I understand like a terms and conditions or a retainer or a contract, super prudent. it applies specifically to certain types of businesses. And I understand for Joanne how it's super important because there's a lot of money involved in the transaction and there's materials to source that you are then on the hook for, Joanne, if they're not actually following through with the job. When I was in a promotional industry, that was the same case. We were buying product and reselling it. So we had to have some kind of obligation back to the client. As I've grown in my business, I found that I'm tending to work with people that I trust more and more, rather than just trying to, take anybody who will come in and use my services and I don't know them that well. So I've gotten away, I would say, from that kind of agreements, binding terms, contract, anything like that. And it's just been much more casual and my clients appreciate that. And it establishes a different kind of trust, one that is more on like a handshake agreement versus, hey, I need to see some money up front before I start working. So I think you progress depending on your industry and depending on the stage of your business, whether you need to be that documented and secure, or whether you can have trust with your client and understand that we can get right to work and not slow down the process by making people feel awkward about money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, if I can add to that, we have clients that want our ideas. And so when it's an idea business, they don't come for free. And so this is for our business, just to create some sense of confidence that they're working with us, they're going to pay us for our ideas. And so it covers your butt as a business owner, but also it ensures that we're taking time out of our day to put into our clients. So I see the benefits of both of the trust and an agreement, some sort of agreement. So yeah.
No, absolutely.
Please proceed with the process. I'm waiting to hear 3 and 4. They sound exciting now.
Okay, well, they're not that exciting, but let's go through it because we do need to go through it. So number 3 is to clarify the scope of work. So what we've done is we've created a questionnaire. So you could create a questionnaire in your business, have your clients complete the questionnaire and afterward have a discussion. So because there's so many moving parts in the business that we have, we need to really get quite clarity on what it is that they want from us. Often the initial conversation is more emotional about the renovation that they want to have. But now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty and the actual details. So that's step 3, is to really get into the details by creating a questionnaire. And then step 4 is really for us to go on site to that home that's going to be renovated and do the measuring, the photographs, and the final criteria. And then this includes making sure we are all on the same page with the scope of work. So really the first 4 steps are just making sure we're going to deliver what it is they want. So bottom line, communication, I would say.
Right. And so I have a similar type of process. It's not as in-depth and involved as yours is. But when I put out a proposal, I break it into 5 phases so my clients have a level of expectation, which we did talk about in the first version of this episode. So your first 4 steps for me are discovery. And it's getting the client a sense of understanding, you a sense of understanding, scope of work, expectations. And that's really important. For me, it also includes looking at what competitors are doing, looking at what they've already got so that we can see where they're starting from. But yes, discovery is the first stage, and I will parallel as you keep going. But it makes perfect sense to me so far.
And you and I remember us talking, Joanne, about this idea of creep when it comes to work, and
yes,
the fact that little things sneak in, and before you know it, it's twice as much work as it initially was quoted. Is that sort of part of that scope of work, making sure that that's absolutely rock solid right at the beginning?
Absolutely. And certainly we're more than happy to do more than a main floor renovation or more than a kitchen renovation. Things tend to do that. It's important that the client knows we've delivered what they've asked for and they didn't just assume that was all included. So yeah, that's how we get around it, is by really identifying what that scope of work looks like. Yeah, get communication.
Great.
Yeah. So shall we move on?
Please.
Okay. Okay. So then the project begins, which is the fun stuff. So for us, because that's what it's what you as a business are intending to do, what you wanted to do while you started this business. It's the nuts and bolts. So step number 5 for us is executing our work. So in our case, we do floor plans and elevations, 3-dimensional drawings, and we source products such as flooring and plumbing, cabinetry, fabrics, and furnishings. So for another creative business could be creating the website. It could be photographing the intended project. So that is step 5, is actually doing the work. And then step 6 is to present our work to our clients to make sure that to see what, in our case, what the renovation is going to look like before they actually get the contractor on site. So we show them all of the work that we've just created, all the drawings and the estimates, and we show them the costs in terms of a proposal. So they get option A and option B. It's like a menu. And then they get to pick and choose from there. And that's where we collect a deposit. So not only do we have a retainer in hand, we collect a deposit for the products. So this is covering your business, our business, so that we're not putting money out of our own business pockets, right? It's covering ourselves. So then once all the clients have made their decisions, we get the deposit, and then we do number 7, which is place the orders and obtain some delivery dates. And then we review the budget. Yes,
can
please
I jump
add.
in here? So that
Yes.
for those 5, 6, 7 steps for me are my design phase. And you're right. That's when you're doing the real work. And that's when you're getting your hands dirty, and it's the fun part. Do you ever find, and I'm assuming no because of this great process, but do you ever find that you have to backtrack up the chain again because what you're showing them isn't meeting expectations, or they had a different idea of what was going to be involved? Do you ever have to go back into the discovery phase to reestablish some of those expectations?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's amazing. So many options in design. You can go in any direction. And part of our process, which I didn't mention because it's so specific to our business, is that we get our clients to do Pinterest boards, which shows us specifically what they're looking for. So when they say, well, that's not the direction we had hoped, we say, well, these are the Pinterest boards that you showed us, and this is how we began our work. So yes, you're right. We do go back sometimes, Damon, for sure.
I do that myself when I'm working with a client who is sort of unclear as to what they're looking for. And I think, Damon, as a designer, you know this very well when they say they want it to be cool and hip. And what does that mean? And
oh no,
yeah,
I'm not either of those things.
I love it, but if it could just be 20% more professional. Okay, what? Okay,
I think my greater challenge is that you have clients who know exactly what they don't like, but they can't articulate what they do like. And so you're just constantly showing them stuff where they say, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. And you're like, well, I would show you exactly what you wanted if you could tell me what that was. So that's the challenge I have more than saying, can it be cooler? No, it certainly can't. I don't have that in my bag.
We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Pros and Conversations is brought to you by For the Record Productions, providing video production services to corporate and nonprofit clients for over 20 years. To learn more about how we can help your business, visit videosthatmatter.ca. And by the Business Alliance, a professional peer group that helps you grow your business through networking, collaboration, and sound advice. To learn more about how to become a member, visit jointhealliance.biz.
I think the Pinterest board is a fantastic idea because what I do is I will, send them videos from YouTube, either work I've done to give them a sense of the kind of work I do at that very early stage, or if they're looking for something that I don't have a sample of that I've done, I will send them examples and say, is this what you're looking for? Or is it more like this?
Right.
And very quickly, you do find out what they don't want. But they do want this. They do, okay, so you want some drone work in it, or you want some time lapse. So very quickly, you can, kind of nail down what it is they're looking for. So everybody has a very clear idea moving forward. And I guess ultimately the idea here, Joanne, is that there are no surprises by the end.
Right. Or at least if there are surprises from the client's end, we can show them, well, this is, one of the things you said you liked. And so this is the direction we took it. And then they say, well, I'd actually prefer this direction, a different Pinterest board, for example. And then we go, okay, well, we will change and go into a different direction, which is fine. It works. And as long as, you repeat the whole process again, but as long as the clients are okay with that. Yeah, it happens.
Great. All right, moving on.
Yeah, sure. So we are at step 7, where we place the orders, obtain delivery lead times. So, and then step 8 is to review the budget. So the clients have already agreed. We need to make sure the vendors that have given us quotes are actually charging us what they said they were going to charge us, so that our clients are not paying any more than we have said they're going to pay, because that's really important. It's important to maintain pricing that you've already agreed to, that they've agreed to. So then construction begins, and the contractors step on site, and the renovation begins. So that's step 9. And then once all the product arrives, we can start to send that off to the job site, the construction site. But before we do that, again, we're covering ourselves as small business owners, and we send out client invoices for that product in advance before we send it to the job site. And that covers ourselves as well, which is really important, not to be left open and vulnerable in your business.
Right. So that 7 to 10 section is like, for me, that's my development phase where, I might do a design like you do, but somebody else is probably implementing it in the real world. So I would have printers, or I would have web developers that build the design that I put together. So very similar to your process. Is it scary when you've done the work of the design and you have to hand it off to somebody else now to implement it in development? Is it scary for you?
It sounds scary. It sounds scary. So for us, we do such specific drawings for our contractors. So for example, I'm looking at that incredible background. You have wallpaper behind you, Damon. And so we specifically say, well, this tile is in a chevron pattern, and we show specifically what that looks like, or it's in a herringbone pattern, and we show specifically how that's going to look as well. So we give such specifics to our contractors so they know exactly how to install it. But I totally get that once you hand that off, it is for them to install and follow the instructions that we've provided. So.
But then when you
is that
see
scary
the finish,
for you?
It is. But when you see the finished room come together, that's not something you can always visualize in its entirety until you're in the room. So that must be a great reveal for yourself as well, right?
Yeah, that's the fun part, which you're right, leads to step 11, which is the furniture installation and the styling and the client reveal, step 12, and then walking through, because there's always deficiencies. Nothing goes perfect. So you just need to know, and they need to know that up front, that, things might go wrong, and we're going to deal with that. So we resolve them in step 14. And then step 15, we really present the final invoices, and the project is complete. So that's our final few steps. How about you, Damon?
Joanne, with deficiencies, if I can jump back to 13, the deficiencies walkthrough, how do you factor that in to the cost, not knowing really what they're going to be?
Right.
I'm wondering, is it a percentage? How exactly does that work?
Well, that's a good question. So, and I think every business is a little bit different. For us, we are an hourly rate, so we don't do a complete fee basis. We are hourly. So we do charge to resolve deficiencies, because if clients were renovating their home on their own, they would have to resolve these deficiencies. That's always tough for them to swallow. So we try and go easy on that in terms of how long it actually takes us to do that. But those deficiencies do need to be resolved and taken care of, and sometimes they go on and on.
Now,
how do you find with that?
Is a deficiency, and forgive me because I'm just trying, if deficiency isn't something that's been done incorrectly, because then if something was installed improperly, there would be no cost because the installers, or you would take care of that because it was done improperly. Is a deficiency something they want that's different than the initial design? How exactly does that work?
Sometimes, no, it's not something different that they want. A deficiency for us would be like one of our last jobs. A light bulb didn't come with a particular light, and it's a very specific light bulb. That probably sounds crazy, but it's a very specific light bulb. We've been literally waiting months for this darn light bulb. So these are deficiencies. It's supposed to come with the bulb. It didn't come with the bulb. So that's what we mean by deficiencies. Gotcha. Hopefully all of the other things the contractors have done with the products we've given them have been done properly. And we go on site, of course, check measures to make sure it is going as planned. As I'm sure you do in your businesses, there's checks and balances along the way to make sure.
So paralleling mine again, so we share the discovery and design and some development phase. My steps 11 to 12 of yours are kind of like a deployment, which is, and Peter understands this, you build the work for the client, but then it has to go to market. It has to be deployed out into the world to become effective. You know, that video that sits there on your computer and never shows to anyone else doesn't do anything for your business. So there's that deployment process of getting it out to market. How are we broadcasting this great work that we've done? And the last steps for me, your 13 and 14, are kind of a support step phase where there might be like, what else do you need, or how do we make it better if it's not hitting the mark, or, you know, you've got this, now let's do a social media campaign to promote it so there's more support to the same work. Do you find that you're getting called back to more work after your project is finished?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes if we do a main floor renovation, they'll call us back to do their basement or their upstairs, or absolutely, or certainly their friends and family see it and then they connect with us, which is the ultimate goal, but ultimate compliment for sure. And I'm sure as is in your business.
Yeah. What about deficiencies that show up later on? So let's say that bulb burns out and they can't find it at Home Depot. Are they calling you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we just order new bulbs for them and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. Look, again, so many parallels, and I'm sure people listening can see the parallels to their business, because there's sort of for myself, there's the filming stage, and then there's the editing stage, and then there's the review stage. And it's very interesting because it is, as much as you try, I would love it if there was a 3D modeling, that I could create the video beforehand before creating the video. But that's where that subjectivity comes in, where you really have to factor in those changes and things later in the process than perhaps you would, because the client really doesn't see it until very far into the process. And then it becomes a bit of a dance, because if they don't like something, it's okay to change, as long as they're not changing the overall concept. If it's about changing text or it's about changing one shot for another, then that's okay. But it can be really challenging with some clients. As much as you have tried to make sure there are no surprises when they see the final product, sometimes they see the final product and they don't like it. And that can be a real, it's rare, but it does happen where, for whatever reason, they were thinking something else. And so in my business, what I try to do is sort of at every stage, always checking in to make sure, now, this is how we're filming it, because this is how it's going to look. Take a look in the camera. This is, what the look is going to be. And so by the end, when you have that reveal, you want happy looks on everybody's faces, but you really don't want any surprises. It should be exactly what they're expecting.
Well, don't you do like flipbook animation sketches for everybody before the video gets shot? Here's the stick man going across the scene.
I knew there was a reason. I knew there was a reason you were here, Damon. Absolutely.
No, but I can understand, Peter, your challenges, especially when the client says, what we could have used was this shot, and you're way past the filming stage, right? Yeah. It's one thing to edit text and to reorder sequences of things, but when they say, I want a new original shot, you're past that point already. You can't go back and back to location and do it all over again without significant cost, right?
No, absolutely. And Joanne, Damon and I, we're going to do an episode which just talks about sort of horror stories and mistakes we've made at challenges that have come up. And I did a series of product videos years ago, and it was a wonderful contract, and there were 200 different products that I was going to film. And I had to calculate without how long it would take to film each product in order to figure out the whole invoice. And I had worked it out to it was 30 minutes per video. So there was about 100 hours worth of filming. But as we got deeper into the project, that 30 minutes became 40 and sometimes 45. And although in a single day shoot, 10 minutes, who cares? You start to multiply that by 200 products. It was a massive, the extra amount of work. And then having to go back to the client for that was very messy. And I think that one of the things, my big takeaways from that is when you have a project like that where there are so many unknowns, that the more structure you have at the beginning, the safer you're going to be, and you're going to have a satisfied client as opposed to one, that is unsatisfied and is not going to give you that referral.
Agreed. Yeah, it's tricky when you're having to set out the price initially, because we don't always know how long it's going to take clients to make decisions. We don't know if things are going to go back and forth a number of times and how much repair work we need to do. So that is a difficult situation for sure to navigate.
Yeah, and to kind of summarize both episodes here, I hear what you say, Joanne, about making sure your business is protected, and these steps outline a process for you to keep you on track, to keep budget on track, to keep your outgoing money covered from your incoming money. But I find that the greatest benefit is that setting expectation for the client. They know what to expect. They know what's coming next. They're happy with how it's happening because they see the progress according to that expectation, and they feel much more secure and comfortable with the whole process. I know that's a benefit you also realize from your process, and put those two together, and it's like a no-brainer to have a very structured, even documented process that your clients can latch onto and connect with. So kudos to you. Super smart way to run your business.
Thank you. It certainly creates, successful projects over and over and over again, and then clients know what to expect, and you know how to do it every time. And when clients come to you, because I've had one recently come to me and say, well, we want to do it this way, we don't want to do it that way. No. You've created this process that works successfully for each project, and stick to your guns. Don't change it for one client. It's really important that you stick to your process if you can create a successful process.
Joanne, thank you so much for joining us again for our part 2. Where can people find you?
You can find me at designexcellence1.com. That's our website, and the same handle, designexcellence1, on Instagram.
Well, thanks again for being part of this part 2 of our episode. And thank you to our maven of marketing, Damon Adachi, for his insights. And we'll be linking the part 1 down in the description. And of course, we're always interested in our viewers' comments and requests for information. That's why we're doing this episode. So please keep those comments coming and be sure to like and share. I'm Peter Reynolds. You've been listening to Pros and Conversations, and we'll see you next time.